Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast. There's no match to celebrate or commiserate over thanks to the international break, so we're switching things up a bit this week and answering some of your questions. Stay tuned to hear about our wildest goal celebrations, the Evertonian we'd taken the team under great duress, and choosing between going all in on Jude or taking a balanced approach to our summer transfer business. There's loads more fun ones to enjoy before we have to have a look ahead at City on Saturday morning. I'm Chris Smith and I'm joined by Ian Brown and TLW editor Dave Usher. Dave, have you been enjoying the break from the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat with very little in between, or you're raring to go again?
I wouldn't say I'm raring to go. No, I've enjoyed the break from it, to be honest. It was all getting a little bit too up and down. 1 minute you're like, okay, we're back on track, we've just battered United. Then it's like, oh, fucking Bournemouth, and then Real Madrid, which was just, ugh. No, I needed the break. It's just unfortunate that what we've got coming up when we come back, it would have been better to just maybe ease ourselves in with a nice gentle game at Anfield instead of having to go to City. But we'll see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Brownie, how you doing, mate? It feels like a while since we've talked on the pod.
Yeah, all right, mate. I'm similar to Dave. I think last time when we had the break, it was a World Cup one. It was quite a lot longer than this one, but I was raring to go, but probably less so now, to be honest. Similar to what Dave's saying there. You just don't know what you're getting from Liverpool, do you, unfortunately, at the moment. So difficult to be too enthused about it, but we've got a big week, haven't we? I think this is going to, the next week basically is going to dictate where the season goes. So in that sense, a lot to look forward to, but am I massively confident about it? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, difficult to be considering the ups and downs we've had over, the last 7 or 8 months, really. But anyway, the international break, as it often does, throws up a few talking points, Liverpool-related talking points. And it wouldn't be an international break at the moment without Jude Bellingham conversation coming up. And Dave, I thought the little interview that he had with Gerrard after the game the other night on the field was sort of quite revealing, really, in terms of how much they think of each other. And it was just another one of those little moments where you think the fit just might be right for us.
Yeah, and you also wonder, was anything said off camera? Because I think Stevie's actually said before, hasn't he, when he's been on telly, he's going to do his bit to try to talk Bellingham into it. I'm sure he said something a couple of months back about that. So,
he said he'd drive a mirror or something.
Yeah,
didn't
he definitely made some comments about it, because I thought it was a bit weird because he'd not that long left Aston Villa and he immediately just had his Liverpool hat on again, and he was like, yeah, I'll try and get him here. So that was his chance. Maybe he's just giving him a nod and a wink. Don't know, but you've also got the stuff on Instagram where he's out with Trent. And then Hendo's putting something up about the two of them are doing warm down together or something like that. There's just so much of it, and you don't really see Bellingham with players from other teams who are supposedly interested. It's always Trent and Hendo. Then you got the Stevie stuff, and I mean I'm so into it now. I'm even looking at that one the other week when he posted a picture on his dad's birthday. And he's posted a picture of himself with his dad, and he was a little kid, and he had a 7 on his t-shirt, and it's the day after we just battered United. That's not a coincidence. It's just not. That I would have loved to have seen what was going on in the WhatsApp chats there, with him and Trent and Hendo and all that. I reckon he's posted that up, and he's gone, get onto that, lads. Look what I've just posted on Instagram, and they're all having a good laugh about it. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Now, yeah, I might be setting myself up for a massive fall if it doesn't happen, but I just don't see any way that it's not happening, to be honest.
How close are you to buying a shirt with his name on the back?
No, I don't do shirts anymore. But if it did, no, that's just Newcastle fan behaviour, that, isn't it? Getting fucking tattoos before cup finals, Newcastle fan behaviour. So no, I wouldn't do that. Paul's already got one, by the way. I think he's actually got a tattoo as well.
What's he done with his Mbappe one? I don't know where that shirt's gone.
He got the tattoo artist to go over Mbappe and just replace him with Bellingham. And he was still reluctant. Because he's like, Mbappe could come as well.
He's in the chair like that. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Dave, if you brought the Bellingham shirt and it didn't come off, it would only be the second most embarrassing Liverpool shirt you own after the Steve Harkness one that you bought.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
I did. I had a Steve Harkness shirt. And I'll tell you
You
the
was the other
season when I
person
had
in the
it.
world who had one.
Do you remember,
Fucking hell.
like, at the start of the season, and I think, like, we'd signed Paul Ince at the year before, and it was in pre-season, and I think Julio was trying Harkness in, like, a holding midfield role. And I remember, like, I was calling him the deputy governor because he was, like, Ince's understudy. But at least when I bought the shirt, I got Harkness on it, and I didn't get deputy governor on it. Well, yeah, Harkness
That would have been
12.
Newcastle fan behaviour.
Yeah, that would.
Or that's more Arsenal, isn't it, I think?
Yeah.
The nickname on the back.
The tattoo would have been Newcastle behaviour.
It's bad though, Harkness. That reminds me of me school days when we turned up one Monday and we went into PE and one of the lads walked in and he had Bjornaby on the back of his shirt and we were all
Good
like,
for
what are
him.
you doing?
Good for him.
I had a Bjornaby one.
All of the players in that
It's too
team that
easy
you
to
could
go
have
and
had
get like
sticking a
Fowler or
Bjornaby.
McManaman or no. I always went for like, you know, the under the radar unsung hero type. I always wanted to give credit to the likes of them rather than just get like the big star's name.
Having
But-
said that, me son's got Fabio Carvalho on the back, so he's going down the same route with him.
He's done his money.
He's
there.
probably worn it more times than Fabio has anyway.
I'm gonna tell him that.
That's just bad
Yeah, I bought the
parenting. though.
Bjornaby one. Sorry, mate?
That's just bad parenting. What are you doing, Brian?
I guess so.
Yeah, you shouldn't have allowed that.
Just giving the lad given his choice. I won't tell you what his first choice was, actually. Let's move on.
Go on, who was it?
Move on.
No, I want to know.
Not happening.
At least give us a clue.
No.
I'll tell you off air.
Come on. We'll find out and then we'll report
We'll
back.
just say on the next pod when Brownie's not on.
All right, I won't
That's
tell
the
you off
hook
air.
to tune in next week to find out Brownie's lad's first choice. I had Bjornaby on the because I think I was going through a little bit of a stage of like trying to prove my merits as like an out of town fan, you know, like I didn't want to be one of those guys who had the Fowler or the McManaman or the fashionable player to have on the shirt. So I got Bjornaby on the, I think it was like the Michael Owen yellow away kit when he scored that volley against Southampton away. It's like a bright yellow. I think it was the kit that they released where they marketed it with the lads in like the Harry Enfield wigs.
I was thinking that as the Old Trafford kit. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we never wore it at Old Trafford.
When was that? Was that like
No.
97?
I know which kit
Something
you
like
mean
that?
because I can picture the Harry Enfield
2000s,
photo
maybe,
that they
like.
did.
Yeah. That one. It's a horrible kit. And it was the material was horrible as well. It's one of those like ones with the perforated, and if you wear it, if you like wore it to fucking school or anything, like by 11 o'clock you were absolutely stinking. The material on those old kits was so bad.
Have you still got it?
I've still got all of them, yeah.
I've still got my Harkness shirt. Only because I sold all the others on eBay and I couldn't sell that one because no one would buy it. So I've still got that. And I kept like the Ecru one. I had Michael Owen on that, and I was like my claim to fame was like I was the first person.
Everybody knows you're the first.
I was the first. Brownie might not know. I was the first person to get Michael Owen on a shirt. It was the day he got given us a shirt number, and I was going to Anfield. I was going past Anfield. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and get a shirt. And they said, oh, this is the first one of these we've done. It's like, okay. So I've got this before Michael's even got it. But I've kept that one as well. I wouldn't part with that one. I've kept that one.
Yeah. And the goal is to get Michael to sign it one day, right? That would be pretty
One
cool.
day, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe one day we can get Michael on the pod and it'll be like a physical meetup thing and you can get it signed then.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Because he loves me, Michael does. Like, me and him are like this.
Yeah.
I know it's not a visual medium.
He retweeted that piece that you wrote about him, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He said, love this, Chris.
You'll have to keep me off that one.
No,
That's also
it'll just be me and you, won't it? I don't think anyone else will want to be on it.
Yeah. You guys aren't being invited to that. You can't sit with us.
Yeah.
I'll bring me
But-
shirt and you can print off your article. Go, remember this, Michael?
Maybe,
Well, get him to
maybe
sign the
Michael's still in
article.
touch with Steve Harkness and you can get that one signed too.
Oh no, Harky's a bit of a wrong one, to be fair. I
Is he?
definitely, yeah.
I want to hear more about that now.
I don't remember. He had remember all the stuff that was going on the plane when Fowler's shoes got cut up and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Harkness took a shit in someone's bag apparently, and not the first time. It was kind of something that he was partial
Come on,
to
we've
do.
all done that, haven't we?
Should we get moderately back on track here?
Yeah, go on.
What was track? Where were we supposed to be going? I was Bellingham.
Buying the Jude Bellingham shirt.
Yeah.
Brownie, the thing I thought that was interesting about the little pitchside discussion that we had was Stevie's admission, and I think we've said this ourselves. As great a player as Stevie turned out to be, that Bellingham is probably a little bit further ahead at 19 than Gerrard was at 19. Is that something that you go along with?
Probably in terms of appearances. I mean, that's just a fact, isn't it? I think I saw something today which said he's got 90 more first team appearances or something, same age. But the thing you forget about with Stevie, though, he had all them growing pains, didn't he, when he was younger? So he had to sit games out quite a lot. So it's probably not a fair comparison in that sense. Although that does lead me on a little bit about Bellingham. He's been wearing a brace on his knee, hasn't he, the last few games? And I think for one of the England games, you could see him shouting to come off towards the end. I was surprised.
Fucking
he played
screaming at
one.
Southgate. I don't even watch England. I watched that because Bellingham was playing, and I seen him limping. I'm going, fucking get him off, you goofy bastard! What are you doing?
I was surprised that he played the second game. Because he's been wearing that for a bit, because I saw him wear it at the Chelsea game as well.
Yeah.
So that's something to just keep our eye on. I think that it's not a massive problem if he's still starting games and everything, but just something to keep an eye on. But no, he is ahead of Stevie, no doubt about it. But I mean, Stevie's development just didn't stop, though, did it? For a number of years, he just kept going and going and going and going. I think when he first came on the scene, we all knew he was going to be a good player, but I don't know whether we ever realised he was going to turn into what he did. So
he just grokked up. Remember that that pre-season, and he come out and I'm like, fucking hell, look at the size of Stevie. And then from probably about 19 to 21, I think he really accelerated his development, and then he was just brilliant, wasn't he, after that? But yeah, Bellingham's definitely ahead in terms of achievements, games played, international caps, all of that stuff. The level he's playing at, I mean, Dortmund's top of the league, aren't they, at the moment? He's playing in a really good team as well.
There's the maturity element as well, though, isn't there? You know, when you hear him speak, it's night and day, isn't it, to what Stevie was like at that age. I mean, Stevie's great now, but when he was younger, I don't know whether there was different forms of media training and all that kind of stuff.
No, they
get that
they do get media training and that, but you've still got to, I don't think you can fake that. He's definitely the maturity. The fact that he hangs around with Hendo, who's 11 years older than him, for them to be able to be such good mates like that shows you he's not your typical 19-year-old. So he's definitely ahead of Stevie, but that doesn't mean he'll go on to be as good as Stevie. But who knows? He might be better. You don't know, do you?
Did you guys see that? I think it was a tweet about how much football he's played for his age, and it was the list of all of those players who'd played that much before their 20th birthday, and the precipitous drop off in the list of players that sort of had played that much football, and it was names like Rooney and Sterling and Eden Hazard and who else was in it?
Yeah, I did see it. There was
Dele Alli?
I'm not sure.
Dele Alli was it. Neymar was in it as well, and there were all these players who had sort of their peak was much earlier than everybody else, and mainly because of how much football when they played at 18, 19, 20, and the drop off after that was quite huge, and I thought that was quite relevant as well, because we've been sort of having that discussion about Trent recently in a roundabout way, whether we perhaps have seen the best from him in the earlier years of his career.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be a bit of a concern, but you need to manage that, don't you? You wouldn't be playing him 60 games a season, although the temptation is to do it because he's young and fit, he could probably do it. You have got to look further down the line. Klopp said about Trent and Robbo, didn't he? He was like, I can't have them playing 50 odd games a season because it's going to shorten the careers. And then they played 50 odd games a season after he'd said it, because we were never really in a position where we couldn't. He just kept picking them because he felt like he had to. But in an ideal world, you wouldn't want to do that. But then I also think that comes down to what we do in the summer. It's like if we just bring him in, he's going to need to be playing a hell of a lot. But if we go and make like 3 signings and you just, those 3 are to replace, say for argument's sake, obviously Keita and Ox, and say if the third one would be like Arthur, if they were the 3 who went and 3 came in and you kept everybody else, you'd still have enough options to, to mix and match a bit, and you wouldn't need to play them all of the time. But it depends on what we do, really, and who else comes in. And we can't be signing players who like you can't rely on to stay fit. We've got to be careful. Players who we bring in, do not sign players with like an injury history, because we've done that and it's not paid off. It's backfired on us. Like Ox and Keita didn't really have an injury history, to be fair. You couldn't really have predicted what's happened with him, but Ox did. And like the amount of games, Thiago as well, the amount of games that they've missed, it means other players are having to play more games than you really want them to. So if you don't want to burn them out, you need to have other options in the squad.
Yeah, that's a good point, that rotation thing, because where you said about Trent and Robbo, although they have been playing a lot, they come off after about an hour, don't they, quite regularly, when you look
recently,
at it?
Yeah, he's been doing that. That
seemed to be a bit
recently.
of a change in how we approached it around them, so you would like to think he'd want to do the same if we were to sign Bellingham. And I know we're talking here as if we've signed him already. I'm not as far down the line as you are on that, I must say. But I don't think anyone would be surprised if it happened, would we? But yeah, that is the key thing, is being able to give him a rest, not just literally from the start, but can you get him off early if he's there? That's going to be important.
Speaking of midfielders who need to sort of contribute a little bit more than they have been, and midfielders who have struggled with injury, and midfielders who are going to need to step up and play a bigger part if we're to progress in that department. Curtis did a thing last week for the under-21s, right? You see that goal he scored, Bernie?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Yeah, it was good. He's playing now as well, actually. I was watching it just before we came on. England are playing against Croatia. It's good to see him getting some game time, innit? Like, that's what he needs. Yeah. He needs to run the games. He doesn't seem to be able to stay fit enough to do that. And obviously, if it's not going to be with us and it can be with England in this break, then this could be one of the small positives you might potentially get out of an international break, because he definitely needs to step up. I mean, I've probably gone past the point of expecting anything to happen with him going forward, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, I'd have concerns if I was him about where he's going to be playing his football next year.
I think if I was him, I'd sort of be looking at the Nico Williams kind of route, Dave, and just thinking whether perhaps I'd be better off elsewhere, because I don't say this lightly, but I do think that Curtis Jones has been negatively affected by playing in a Jurgen Klopp team. I think he would have been further ahead in his development now if he'd have been playing under a manager that didn't demand so much functionality from his midfielders, and someone who was going to allow him to be a little bit more expressive. Because I saw that the goal he scored the other night, and it was, like a charging, direct run from midfield, like laid it off. There was pace about it, there was intensity about it, and
then an Usher finish.
The finish was great. And we don't see that from him.
Finish that was, I know.
Oh, gosh.
It was like, look, you just can poo-poo it all you like, but that's a fact. I scored so many goals like that; it's just ridiculous. But no, you're right. He should be worried. All I'd say there though about the Nico Williams point, Nico Williams has basically swapped our bench for Forrest's, because he started off, he was in the team, but now he's lost his place to that Serge Aurier, and they've got that Lodi playing left back, I think. So he's been coming on, playing on the wing, playing on the left wing, and then he's on the bench, and then the next game he starts. So it's not like he's gone on to like bigger and better things and he's playing every week. It's like Danny Ward swapped our bench for Leicester's bench. It's like, well, do you really want to do that? Like, if you're going to leave, it's got to be somewhere where you're going to be definitely playing. And Curtis seems happy enough. Now, that's not going to go on forever, but he is. I mean, the fact he's playing in the under-21s, it shows you, he's still a kid. I know he's been around for a good few years, but relatively speaking, he's still a kid. And I think,
how old is he?
He's 21, isn't he?
All right.
Maybe
a little bit older, because there's a rule in the way you can have.
I don't know,
you
but
can have a couple of over.
Might be 22 now, but again, it's like that's still really young. But because he's been around the team for so long, you kind of think he's older than he is. But I do agree that, like, he's got to be thinking maybe time's running out. Because this was a big season for him. He really needed to make some kind of impression, and he's made absolutely no impression at all. And it's not really because his form. He's just not played. I mean, I can barely remember him even being on the pitch all season, to be honest. Like, it'd be interesting to see how many games he's actually started, because I'm thinking it's like maybe 2 or 3, something like that. So it's a problem, but what he's got in his favour is the homegrown thing. We can't just get rid of all like the English players in the squad. You can't do it, because you've got to have so many. Well, it's not so much that you've got to have so many, but like you can only have 18 overseas players. Well, then the rest of your squad has got to be made up of like homegrown players. So if you choose to go in with like a small squad, then you can lose like a Joe Gomez or a Milner or Curtis, whatever. But if you want to keep a big squad, then you've got to either replace them with other homegrown players or you keep them. And I think he'll probably still be here next year, but I don't think it's 100% by any means.
And it goes back to your point before as well, though, about needing reliable cover.
Yeah.
When we talked about Bellingham, well, Curtis is a perfect example that you can't trust him to be fit when you want him to be, so you can rest someone else. So that's got to come into it as well for me.
I do think, though, like when they're talking about the injury that he had, like the most recent one, and it was related, his last couple of injuries, actually, it's been related to growth. And it's like, okay, that doesn't mean he's injury prone. That's just something that he's got to go through. And we spoke before about Stevie had that. Stevie was younger when he had that, but it does happen sometimes with younger players, and you've got to just let them get through that until they're fully grown. So he's obviously still developing physically, and he's going to get some problems along the way. If they think that his issues have only been related to that, then you be patient, don't you? And you just let him go get himself through it. So I wouldn't be calling him injury prone at this point when his body's still developing. If that's still happening when he's 23, 24, well then, yeah, he's another Ox or Cater, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a fair point.
My concern is less that, Brownie. It's more the fact that we just don't see any exuberance from him anymore. Like it feels like he plays it safe all the time. He second guesses everything he's doing. Like, I don't know. I would love to see Curtis Jones become the player I think he could be that could match his talent, but he's such a square peg in a round hole at the moment, and I just don't see that changing with the game time he's likely to get in a midfield 3.
Yeah, it does come back to what you said before about how we play as well, like the midfield. We've spoke about it all season about how when we were at our best, those 3 really were just putting fires out, doing a lot of shuttle runs, giving the ball to the players who can go and do the damage. But what you're saying there is fair about Curtis, that coming through, you looked at him to be the player to do the damage, didn't you? Rather than just be like a bit of a water carrier. So that, yeah, whether he fits into the style, that's just one of a number of factors around why there's question marks on him, I guess.
As well with that, though, it's like he's not the only one, is he? Because
no, we said it about Harvey as well, didn't we?
I do think Harvey's starting to show that he probably could just be like a centre midfield player if he had legs around him. Harvey's like, his most recent appearances, I mean, the work rate that he's put in and winning the ball back and that, it's like he's looked like, okay, yeah, there might be something that he might settle down into that position long term. But you've got Carvalho as well, who just, again, and this also, we may as well talk about this now while we're on this point. Mason Mount. We keep getting linked at Mason Mount, and I think Mason Mount's like a really good player, but he's another tweener. It's like, well, what is he? Is he a midfielder or is he in the front 3? He's not quick enough to play in the front 3, and does he do enough like defensively to play in midfield? And by defensively, I don't mean like pressing and work rate, because that's exemplary from him. That's not an issue, but he's not naturally a defensive-minded player. You know what I mean? So it's like, unless we're changing what we want from our midfield players, it's a bit puzzling that we're getting linked with Mason Mount. And also, where does it leave Curtis if we're not? If we want like the midfield that we had, like, to function the way they did, if that's what we're looking for, those players don't really seem to fit. Now, and you can Bellingham as well. I mean, Bellingham can do it, but why would you have a player like that? With all that he can do, and you're restricting him to just, sitting in there and doing like the genie role, if you like, or even like the Hendo role. He can do it, but he can do so much more. So I do think that maybe they must be looking at like changing what they want from the midfield.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, that. I haven't thought about it with Bellingham, about where he would play, because you look at him and you think he can be a 6, he can be an 8, he can be a 10, because he can do anything, can't he? That's why everybody's so interested in him.
But we don't play with a 10.
No, we don't, no,
So,
yeah. So it is interesting to think where would you slot him. You'd think maybe the Hendo role, like you just touched on, but there's a lot of defensive duties to do. And the more I've been watching Bellingham recently, they seem to, these coaches who he's playing for now seem to be taking the shackles off him and letting him kind of be the main man, almost like a bit of a free role. So yeah, it will be interesting to see. Just going back to Curtis though, Harvey's actually in the under-21 squad as well, and Curtis is getting picked ahead of him. Yeah, Curtis is actually getting picked ahead of him, which is quite interesting. Now, it might just be that the way they set up and play means that Curtis's ability can come out a little bit more based on Chris's.
Isn't he playing up front tonight? I've seen on Twitter he's playing as a false 9.
No, I'm not sure.
That's always where I've thought his proper position is. We talk about him being a tweener.
Like Bobby?
Yeah. I think he can do what Gakpo does.
I think he can do some of the things, but I don't know defensively. I don't know.
Sure, maybe not, but I've always thought that it was worth a try with him in that role. If there was a place that he would fit into our team, that false 9, I think he has the ability on the ball to do it. And I think he has just about probably enough pace to do it as well. But maybe it's the defensive thing. I just don't know why we haven't given it a try. There's been enough opportunities, but we've never seen it. So there must be something that means I'm way off base with it.
I just don't know what he is. And when you're talking about a player after a few years, and he's missed a lot of games, but when you're having those kinds of conversations and you don't know what a player is, it's never a good sign, is it? He's
a 10, or he's like someone who'll play on the left in a 4-2-3-1, cutting in like the way Coutinho used to. But we don't play that way. We need pace out wide, so he can't play out wide in the way we in our setup. So it only leaves a number 8 position, doesn't it? But also going back to that, like with the Mason Mount and Bellingham, but the other players who've been linked with as well, like that Nunes from Wolves. Well, he's someone who gets the ball and just runs with it. He's really good at carrying the ball forward, but he's not like a Wijnaldum type of player. And then the lads at Bayern Munich who play for Ajax, like Gravenberch, again, looking at like clips of him, he just looks like Bellingham. He just seems to be like a very similar type of player to Bellingham. So again, they're not like, we're not looking at midfielders who fit the profile of what we've had from midfielders in the past. So it does feel like we must be looking at evolving and doing something different.
Do you reckon that Gravenberch is sorry, Chris. Do you reckon that Gravenberch is like a backup option for Bellingham?
I don't think you need a backup for Bellingham, because I think
that's what I'm getting at.
But what I do think is, because he is really similar, I just think that might be one where you look at his age, and he's not really done anything at Bayern Munich, but I wouldn't even read anything into that. He's getting kept out of the team by like 2 world-class players. So he was great at Ajax. He was really highly rated. The fact that Bayern Munich signed him, Bayern Munich, like, they do sign like a lot of good young players. They know what they're doing. They signed him. It's not really worked out, and he may well just be thinking, these are the players ahead of me are like quite young or don't really fit in here tactically or whatever, and he might just be looking for a change. And because he's available for a pretty much knockdown fee, it's one of those no-brainers where like you can't really lose by signing him, because you wouldn't lose out. You'd probably sell him on for more money unless he's completely dog shit, which he's not going to be. So that might just be one. We've not got like unlimited funds, so if you spend the bulk of your money on Bellingham and you've still got to get 2 midfielders, well, if Chelsea are asking for like 80 million for Mason Mount or something, well, maybe then you look at like the 30 million euros, I think the fee that they've been talking about for him. Maybe you go and get him, plus the fact he's like 21. If he comes good, if you get him and he turns out to be really good, and you've got a midfield of like Bellingham and Gravenberch, and then you've got Bajcetic like potentially as like your future 6, not to mention Elliott, if they do come good, you're set for like the next 10 years, aren't you?
You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary, and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook. Well, one more thing that happened during the international break has been happening is that Van Dijk is, he can't escape it at the moment. He's getting absolute pelters from Van Basten and Gullit in Holland. And if you haven't heard these comments, I'll just read some of them quickly. Van Basten said, "He makes noise, but he doesn't say anything. He is not clear. A good captain thinks aloud, makes it clear what's going on. He stays in between. He creates chaos that leads to understandings. This is what you, as a captain, must prevent." And then Gullit said, "He thinks he's better than the rest. We see things. Then I think, you're captain, you have to solve this." But he's just commenting a little on what's happening in front of him. That's pretty damning from, arguably two of the most instrumental, world-renowned Dutch footballers in the history of the game. Brownie, do you think there's merit in that, or do you think they're just sort of jumping in on him, talking heads, having to say something? I know he's got quite a little bit of an adversarial relationship with some of the ex-players at Liverpool and indeed with his national team.
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit of both, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest. Maybe I need to be a bit careful saying it, but the Dutch love an argument, don't they, for the start? They just love having a fallout, and then when things don't go well, they just start pointing fingers at each other. So I think there's an element of that to it. As you say, he's had a bit of a running feud, I think, with Van Basten in particular over a number of years. So when results aren't going well, I mean, they conceded 4, didn't they? Didn't they lose 4-0 in one of the games? So he's going to get heat. Yeah. So it can't be a surprise he's getting a little bit of heat on that. But having said that, there probably is also an element of truth to it, because, I mean, we've been coming on here all season questioning him. Just look at that goal at Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago where we can't understand why he's stopping, So it's probably one of them where it is a bit of both. It's not just the case that they've lost a couple of games and they're jumping on him because he's an easy target, or being the captain and, world-class player and all that. He's definitely not in good form. I don't think he's in a good place with how he's playing, which is a concern obviously for us in the run-in, but whether he can bounce back from it, I don't know. We'll see in the next few weeks, won't we?
Dave?
Yeah, but did you see the other quote as well from the former Feyenoord manager who called him a first-class wimp?
Oh,
gosh. Fucking hell, I mean, that's I don't know who he is, or if he's a respected pundit, or if he's just someone who's he's just there to say controversial stuff and get people talking. I don't know. No opinion on the guy who talks. I've never heard of him. But obviously I've heard of Van Basten and Gullit. Van Basten has said plenty of stuff about Virgil, and Virgil's had to go back at him. As far as I know, this might be the first time Gullit's really laid into him. I could be wrong, but I've not seen anything before. But the thing with Gullit is whenever he's a pundit and he's on telly, he's never somebody who, when he talks, I think, oh yeah, he's talking a lot of sense. Yeah, he knows what he's on about. Do you know what I mean? He's a great player, but sometimes when when people are on and they're talking, you listen and you think, is he making good points? Is he saying something that I've not really thought about? Do I feel educated by listening to him? So when you've got Carragher and Neville, for all the criticism they get, and some of it deserved, when they're analysing the game and they're pointing stuff out, usually they're pointing stuff out that I've not picked up on. I'm I feel actually more enlightened from seeing that now. Whereas with Jude Bellingham, it was I don't think I've ever seen him say anything that's made me go, oh yeah, he knows what he's talking about, this fella. He just seems like a great player who talks a fair bit of shit. And there's a lot of them about, do you know what I mean? There is a lot of them. So I don't necessarily take his opinion to mean that much. But based on Virgil, what we've seen from him ourselves, I mean, I don't think any of us have gone as strongly as what they have, questioning saying he talks but he's not actually saying anything. I'm I don't know. I mean, there's been times this year where I feel the leadership's not been there at the back. He's not always been there. Most of the time he's not been playing when that's happening, and that was the whole thing about getting him back. Was we'll get him back, just because he can organise people. So I think it's over the top, but I didn't see the France game. He might have been horrendous in that game, and maybe it's a reaction to that. I don't know, but in general, I feel that's excessive, but not completely without foundation. But the Dutch, I mean, Not so much now, to be fair. I don't think recently they've had any problems with that. But like from like the era of like Gullit, Van Basten,
when they
and
played,
following on.
innit?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Following on from them, they've always had like Seedorf and Davids, all of that. They've always had like bust ups in the camp. It's like the Dutch and the French. Every World Cup, one of them was going to be having some kind of a big blow up.
Yeah.
Now it seems like that Holland have got like a decent team spirit at the moment. You know, I thought like they did quite well in the World Cup. They went quite far. They went out on penalties, didn't they?
Yeah, against Argentina.
It comes with results, that though. They've been building back over a number of years, haven't they? They did well in that Nations League thing, which we all know is a load of bollocks, but to them, they seem to enjoy doing well in it, and they definitely were starting to come back up, weren't they? So you've got to look at it that way as well. As soon as it starts going south again, you do get these people coming out.
Yeah.
And I agree with you about Gullit. Like, he used to do the Champions League coverage years ago when it was on Sky? I'm sure he did. And I'm the same. And then I never thought he provided any insight when he spoke. He was just another like kind of rent a quote. You know, they come out with all the cliches, don't they? They don't really give you anything new, which is what you want.
I think it doesn't matter what he thinks about Van Dijk or what Van Basten thinks about him. I think what the current Dutch players who are in the team with him now, it matters what they think. And if they think he's talking shit, you know, he's talking a lot but not saying anything. If they think that, then it's a problem. If like someone sitting in a studio back home watching the game is making those observations, I'm not reading too much into that. But what you have to be concerned about is, are they getting that from people in the camp, maybe? Are other people in the Dutch squad saying that behind the scenes about Virgil? Now, there's nothing that to say that there is. You know, that's just pure speculation. And like, it doesn't seem to be any problems like with our players with him. You know, he seems to be like very well respected. And I mean, even like the other day, it was like Kanate was asked something about who's better, Upamecano or Van Dijk, and he just laughed. And he was like, you know, nobody's even close to his level. He said, you know, myself and Upamecano were both like trying to get to where Virgil is, but like, you know, no one's even close to that level. He's on another level to everyone. And there was a forward as well. I can't remember who it was. I seen something the other day, like a forward saying like Van Dijk's like the best player he's played against in that. So I'd put more stock in that than like Ruud Gullit and Marco Van Basten sitting in a studio like just sounding off.
It is significant though. I think there's a growing number of players within our team, Brownie, who, let's just say, there's like 10 or 12 games left this season. Is it 10 games, 12 games? But there's a growing number of players in the squad who, between the end of this season and what they produce for us next season, is really, really big for them. Like Virgil's one of them, Trent is another, Hendo's one, Fabinho is one, Salah is another. Like, there seems to be a lot of question marks at the moment about a lot of the senior pros for whatever reason whatsoever, and there are a variety of reasons, be it like age, drops in forms, injury concerns, the full gamut of stuff that can happen to a footballer. But there is a lot of players in the squad at the moment who have been great for us, that the next year and a half is massively important.
Yeah, that's just natural though, isn't it, when the results start going the way they have done this year. It's easy to forget what these players have given us over a number of years, isn't it? You know what I mean? When you look, when you think about the spell we're talking about, it's months compared to years of high quality performances, and we've already seen a couple of years ago when we had the COVID season how we reacted the year after. So I'm not at a point here where I would be writing off these players from being able to come back again.
It's the age.
There might be one or two. Yeah, there might be one or two where like Fabinho's more of a concern to me than Van Dijk for the start, just because of how far he fell. I know he's played all right last couple of games, but I mean that wasn't a dip, was it? It was a collapse. I think it's fair enough to describe Virgil's form as dipping, but not to the degree that Fabinho did. So there's going to be exceptions to the rule, but I'm certainly not writing Virgil off, and most of the other players who you just listed, there'll always be one or two exceptions, but he needs to finish the season well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I touched upon it earlier, this next week's huge, isn't it? And we're going to need Van Dijk to have a good week, aren't we, to be getting some points on the board. That's obvious. So we just have to wait and see how he reacts to it. My concern a little bit with Virgil is he seems to be bit fragile when he gets criticised. We've seen it in the past, haven't we, that he's bitten back quite a lot and he gets a little bit precious when he's asked about it. I know that his reaction to this seems to have been all right, but he's going to have to put the performances in, because we know, don't we, it's football at the highest level. The only way you get people to stop talking shit is by putting good performances in and getting results. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Okay, well, that brings us sort of quite neatly, really, to one of the questions that we had from a listener. Probably spent a little bit too much time talking about the international stuff than I'd anticipated, but it's all good. Andrew Ellaby on Twitter, Dave, said, if you had to sell one of Hendo, Van Dijk, Trent, Robbo, Salah or Thiago this summer, what would be the pecking order? And two, do you reckon Fabinho having a baby this year is a possible explanation for his dire form?
If he actually had a baby, then yeah, it would be a definite explanation for it. But as far as I know, it was his missus who had the baby, so no, I don't think that's a legitimate excuse. The first part of that question, now, fucking hell, that's tough. I'm putting Thiago at number one, for the one who I would sell first, even though I love Thiago. I think from that list, it's the obvious choice because of availability.
And the length of what he's delivered for us.
Yeah, that's well. I think we also have to dismiss that, like, in terms of loyalty aspect and what they've done for us. I think if you're
too loyal, Dave.
I know, because that's what we're saying. Klopp shouldn't be doing. I don't think like that. We can look at it from that point of view. I honestly don't even know. All I can say is, like, Thiago, I could make a case for selling him. I don't want to sell him. I'd happily keep him, but I could make a case for Thiago going. I would not be getting rid of any of the others. I can't. You know what? You see, the next one you'd probably say, based on importance to the team, you could say, okay, well, if Bellingham came in, you could move Hendo on. But part of the reason why Bellingham would be coming here is because of Hendo and, like, what he brings off the pitch. So I would not be putting Hendo at number two. I think,
wash your mouth out.
No, a lot of people would. I'm not doing it. In fact, I'm just not doing it. I'll go Thiago one, and then after that, like, no. And I'd be selling Robbo over my dead body. Robbo's number 6 on that list, and then you can just move the others around, whatever order you want. But
who was on the list,
1,
Chris? Was Fabinho on the list?
No.
Hendo, he was mentioned in the second.
Trent.
I think Fabinho's off the list because he would be probably the obvious choice. But it's Hendo, Van Dijk, Trent, Robbo, Salah or Thiago.
Yeah, I'm the same as Dave. I know it's boring, but Thiago's the only one. Now, a bit of that loyalty thing does come into it, though, because I'm right in thinking, aren't I? Thiago, he hasn't won the league or Champions League with us, has he? I know we won a couple of things last year, but that's a big thing for me. You know, when you win the league and you win the Champions League and you've got all them memories of how you've done it and the celebrations and everything. Like,
all right, yeah, he seems to down.
No, but he missed the boat a bit, didn't he, Thiago? It's a bit harsh on him, really, because he's come a little bit late and yeah, he's won a couple of cups, but that's not what we're going to remember from this spell, is it? We're going to remember Madrid. We're going to remember winning the league. So in that sense, it's easier to just say, yeah, go on, you're the one who's going.
Who's 6 then? I know we can't do 2, 3, 4 and 5. It's too hard, but who's 6? Who's the last one that you would get rid of from that list?
Hendo.
I'd go with Robbo. A lot of that comes down. How old's Robbo? He's not 28. As old as some of the others, is he? So he's kind of in his prime.
Might have just turned 29, actually.
Yeah, but he's still kind of close. If he's not in his prime, he's close to it.
It was his birthday at Bournemouth, wasn't he?
Was it?
Yeah. Happy birthday, Robbo.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably say Robbo. When you weigh everything else up, possibly Mo. It'd be between them two for me.
Okay, I'm just going to go Hendo because he's my favourite footballer of all time. So.
And Thiago would be your other one for 1.
Yeah.
We've copped out a little bit there, but it's too hard.
Big time.
It's too hard.
It is too hard. All right, so we kind of sort of covered this a little bit, Brownie, but AWS on the forum, AWS, longtime friend of the show and the podcast and the fanzine. He says, would you spend all of our kitty into midfield this summer to improve, like, over a broader... Hold on, I'm reading that wrong. All of our kitty into midfield and maybe a centre-back, or spend less in midfield to improve the cover up front or at right back?
Midfield all day. all day. If the money's there for Bellingham, then obviously that's the one that we want to do. But that is definitely... I know that as the season's gone on, it's been clear that we don't just have a problem in midfield. There's issues all over the place, but I do think a lot of it stems from midfield. We've got to sort that area of the pitch out. We need legs. That's the area that we haven't really been trying to refresh over the last few years, isn't it? So we've fallen behind on it. So that's got to be number one priority.
Yeah, same. Definitely midfield. Just following on from Brownie's point there, I also think that we've got a lot of other problems, but I'd like to see if those problems are still there once we fix the midfield. And I think some of them still will be, but maybe not as glaring. So
I think Trent would look better with a more stable midfield. That's just one example.
Can't do everything in the one window. There's no way we're going to be able to do that. So it's this summer is where we've got to completely rebuild the midfield and then take it from there and see after that what we need. So we do need another centre-back, but if we had to just get by with what we've got, even if it's until January, sort the midfield out and then see where we are, and if we still need to get another centre-back because of injuries. I think if they all stay fit, I'm not worried about the centre-backs really. It's just that the fitness issues, and then Van Dijk and Konate having to play all the time because the other two are injured, and Konate's had injuries himself, so that is a concern. But maybe you just tell Nat Phillips, sorry Nat, you need to stay for another 6 months. I know you're planning on leaving, and I know we've done this to you the last 4 windows, but we can't take a chance. You've got to stay as cover. But no, sort the midfield out and then see where we're at, and then see what needs doing afterwards.
Are you okay, Brownie, if come August 31st and Jude Bellingham is the only signing that we make over the transfer window, would you be satisfied with that? Would you be okay with it moving into the new season and getting to January, having secured that signing, potentially transformational, that could stay with us for the next 10 years or more?
Very good question. Yes.
Dave?
I would say no at the time, but I think it would. I'd be pissed off at August 31st. I'd be pissed off if that was the only signing we made, but I'd get over it. And in a year's time, when we bring in other players, you'd be looking at it and going, "Fucking hell, we've got Jude Bellingham, and he's amazing." It's kind of like when we had to wait for Van Dijk. We were all fuming and said, "Oh, why didn't you just go and sign somebody else?" Mm-hmm. You can't carry on like that. And to be fair, the way that first half of the season went completely justified what the fans were saying. We were just shipping goals all over the place. We were playing great football, but we were just letting in too many goals. So the fans' concerns about you should have bought a centre-back were valid, but we waited, and then Virgil comes in January and the patience is rewarded. But that doesn't change the fact that for those months in between, you could see we definitely needed a centre-back, and that's why people were saying we should have done it. So Klopp will wait for who he wants, and it's not a quick fix. He'll probably be looking long-term rather than just for one window. But I'd be pissed off at the time, but I'd get over it.
I just think that Bellingham would be transformational though, Chris, which is why
I agree.
Why I would say that, because on the face of it doesn't look good, does it? But context is important with everything. It's going to take an awful lot of money as well. You can't get away from that fact that I don't know how much money we've got to spend. You always hear, don't you, rumours, we've got $250 million spend, all this kind of stuff. I don't really put much stock in that based on what we normally do. I would. If that's doable, if he wants to come here and we don't make it happen, then heads have got to roll, haven't they? Simple as that.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, Brownie, Remy on the forum, another long-time friend of the show and the fanzine and everything. He asked this question, presumably with his balls in, but we can never quite be sure about that. If everybody is fit and in top form, who starts in the front three?
Sorry, I'm gonna need a minute.
Well, allow me to explain that then. Remy, I mean, I'm not giving away anything here because there's pictures all over the internet of this cat with his balls out.
And as long as we keep his real name out of it.
Exactly. He's partial to exposing his testicles.
He was. I don't think he still does.
No,
it.
He's a father now.
In his younger, reckless days.
He's a married father, and he's a respectable young man. There was this one time.
Is this the
He
toothbrush?
Yeah, the toothbrush.
This is the greatest thing ever.
So Remy came up from, I think he was living in Preston at the time. He's from Milton Keynes, but I think he was living in Preston. And he came over to my apartment in Liverpool just to watch the Royal Rumble. And a few of us gathered to watch the WWF Royal Rumble. I think it was like 2007 or 2008 and something. It was a great Royal Rumble as well. We played this drinking game where I think there were 6 of us, and you had like 5 Royal Rumble participants each. And every time your guy got eliminated from the Battle Royal, you had to take a drink. And Remy was there. Longo off the forum was there as well. I have a great picture somewhere of Longo just sat on the floor of my stairs, like outside my apartment block, with his head in his hands. Because about like 5 of his dudes got eliminated within the space of like about 25 seconds. Or something like Kane came in or something, for example, and just started launching people over the top rope. And Longo had brought this like horrendous like Uzo or something with him that somebody had brought back off holiday for him. Oh. And he had to nail about 5 shots of this in the space of about 2 minutes. And he struggled for it, to be honest, but we still laugh about it to this day. But Remy, he wasn't so bad in that regard. But the next day, he'd left and gone back to Preston. He sent me this picture, and it was him with his bollocks on my toothbrush. And I was quite upset about this at the time. So I thought, I've got to hatch some kind of revenge plan. So I told you guys about it, and we sort of hatched this plan where you guys all acted disgusted by what he's done. You're all like, oh God, can't believe you've done that, Rem. Like, Chris has invited you to come and stay in his house, and that's how you repay him. Such a betrayal of trust. And bless him, he was so upset.
Oh, he was devastated.
He quit the forum for a little while, and then after that I felt so bad that I had to come clean and say, no mate, it's fine, like, but let that be a lesson to you. Anyway, his question was, if everybody's in fit and in top form, who starts in the front 3? And I got very experienced with his front 3. Oh, 2 of them anyway.
Oh my God.
Okay, over to you.
Darwin's got to be in it. He has to. Hang on, what was the question? Are we saying when they're all in form? All at the best?
All fit and in form, please.
I'm going to sound like a tit here. So Darwin, Mo, and I'd go with Jota. Now, I'll be honest with you.
Get the fuck out of here.
I would, honestly. Think about how clinical he was in that spell. Now, I actually think it was probably a purple patch. I don't think we'll see him do that again. I even said a few weeks ago, didn't I? I wouldn't be against possibly to raise some funds, whether he was somebody who might be going. But if you're talking about the career at Liverpool so far and at the best, then he was banging goals in left, right and centre, and I liked him in that central role. I know that you can say the same about Bobby, but that was years ago, so I'm disregarding that. So that's what I'd go with.
Now, Diaz for me. Diaz left, Darwin in the middle, and Mo on the right. But in a couple of months' time, I might change my mind, depending on Gakpo, because I do think he looks like he could be amazing. Mm-hmm. But right now, if everyone's fit and on top form, Diaz is definitely in there.
I don't think Diaz has done enough, to be honest. Not in terms of scoring goals.
No,
I love him, by the way he plays.
He started to score more, and then he got injured. I think he had like 6 this season or something. He looked like he was flying, and then he got injured. So, no, I think he's a superstar. Diaz, Darwin, and Mo for me. Chris?
Okay. It's a tough one, though. It's a tough one because my instinct is from what we saw in that Man United game, my instinct is to say Gakpo, but there's not a big enough sample size with him to be able to make
Bournemouth
that
the week after, the 3 of them played. And
then... right. But yeah, I think I'd probably go with yours ahead of Brownie's. Darwin on the left. Diaz on the left, Darwin in the middle, and Mo on the right. But that's why it's such a great question. It's all like subject to change, and week by week we'll have a different opinion. And if they can all stay fit and in top form, what a fantastic problem that would be to have.
Yeah, well, Gakpo can definitely force his way in there, and if Jota was to get back to that level, when I think of Jota at his best level, it's the Arsenal games that always they're the ones that jump out. Like the Arsenal away game, it was the cup semi, wasn't it? Second leg.
Yeah.
And the league game when he just left Ben Shite on his arse. Just dropped the shoulder. Like, you know, he was flying then.
He was undroppable, wasn't he?
Yeah.
At that point, though, because he was just banging them in constantly.
I do think you're onto something with the purple patch. I don't necessarily think that is his level. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope it is his level and he gets back to it, but I think, you know, I don't think that's his level, to be honest.
I agree.
I think with him, that the question that we had from Andrew earlier of who you would sell, I'd consider offers for Jota at this point. If it gets us where we need to get in other areas of the field, then
this is because of that video he did the other day, isn't it? Be honest,
I've seen that.
It's when he said he doesn't like music.
Oh yeah. No, that
you
that
were horrified. You're absolutely horrified.
Yeah.
What kind of fucking weirdo doesn't like music?
I always find that I don't trust people who don't have a really strong opinion about what kind of music they like. I feel it like should be sort of completely integral to somebody's personality, what music they like.
He just said he doesn't like it.
It's like
it's not that his taste in music. He just said he doesn't like it.
That's
well,
weird,
let's not start talking about taste in music, Dave. It's a bit like Michael Owen, isn't it? Have you ever seen what he said about films? It's a similar thing. Like somebody asked him about films. I don't watch them because they're not real. You know, it's the whole point. Come on.
Yeah, that was mental.
All right, we got a few of these to get through. So moving on, number 7 on the forum, Dave. I think this one's probably more suited for you, but we might get a more sensible answer off Brownie. Southampton away, last day of the season. Victory gets us top 4. Defeat relegates Everton. Discuss.
There's nothing to discuss. This is like the easiest question in the world to answer.
Yeah.
Bye-bye Champions League. We'll see you next year. Anything to get missing out on the Champions League for one season, weighed up against getting rid of Everton, possibly forever. Because if they go down, the shit that they'd be in financially and that, it's actually like it's a close call, us winning the league on the last.
I was just going to say the same. I was going to ask you.
And come down just on the side of us winning the league, but it's close. It's a lot closer than I'd like to admit to, put it that way. But top 4, no, them going down all day.
I might surprise. You're on board with that, Brownie, too.
I was just going to say I might surprise you here, Chris, but 100% Everton going down because we know we're going to be back in the Champions League at some point. That's just temporary, isn't it? Whereas if they go down, I don't know how quickly they come back up. That's the funniest thing about it. Because the situation they'd be in financially and everything, it's no guarantee that they bounce straight back up.
Well, the Football League don't mess about with penalties, with financial stuff, do they? So
we could get years out of that. That would be hilarious, wouldn't it? Your new shiny, brand new stadium at home against Rotherham. That'd be fucking boss.
I think that's a bit mean, to be honest.
No.
Like, but why would you want to get rid of them completely? What would you be without Everton to make fun of?
I know,
Dave?
but I've had more than enough fun over the years. I've had like 10 lifetimes worth of fun laughing at Everton, and if it came to an end now and there was like they were no more, I'd be fine with that. I've got enough happy memories to look back on. I don't need any more. There's like that thread that was on Twitter the other day. The Everton fan, he was like looking for
gold
stories for his book of like just typical Everton things. And I'm reading through it like, oh my God, I'd forgotten all about that. This is just amazing. So yeah, I do think like we've reached a tipping point anyway where they've gone way beyond the point where I can take the piss out of them anymore. I can't.
It will keep going though in the Championship. Honestly, they just keep finding new ways, don't they? Like you would think that's them gone down, right? That's the end of it. The content to keep coming. They keep doing it. It'd still be fucking funny as fuck.
Hopefully it'll be all the way down to the conference.
See,
playing against Marine.
This is where you two. This is where you two and I differ, and the fact that I'm not from the city comes into it in a big way, because everything that you're saying there to me would be the same way I'd feel if we were talking about Man United, perhaps. Right?
I feel the same way about them.
Yeah, precisely.
They can go as well.
Like, I think, how long did I live in the city for? Like 7 years. I've been coming there since I was 8 years old, so like 33 years now. As much as I could ever consider having a second home, it would be there. If I could sort of come back and relive those times, I would. But I never really developed the same hatred for Everton that you guys have. I actually kind of just pity them in a way. Like, I don't, it's funny and stuff, but like, I don't seek out that hilarity from their misfortune.
It's not hatred, though.
I'm okay with it happening. What is it then?
It's hard to explain. I hate
Why
Man
do you want-
United.
why do you
I
want to
hate
get
Man
rid of
City.
them
I don't
completely?
hate Everton because it's just funny.
It is just entertainment for me.
Yeah.
Like that, it literally is. It's just free entertainment and
Right.
extremely
Right,
good.
here's the
entertainment.
difference. Like, Everton fans hate Liverpool. I don't hate Everton. And I was thinking about this today, actually. This is it's a good point. It's a good example. I just caught the end of an interview today on the radio. Duncan Ferguson was on TalkSport talking to Ali McCoist, and I just caught like the last couple of seconds, so I knew who it was. And the interview finishes, and my first reaction was, oh, you know what? I like Big Dunk. And I do. I like him. I like Duncan Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you imagine an Everton fan saying, like, what would be their equivalent? It'd probably be like Stevie or something, wouldn't it? Like because he's like their big talisman, like Mr. Everton.
Yeah.
I like Duncan Ferguson. I've got absolutely no problem with Duncan Ferguson. I think he's a top fella, and I don't mind listening to him, getting interviewed and that. I see the videos what he's doing for, like, Everton kids and stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I like Big Dunk, and I'm not ashamed to say so. Now, if I hated Everton the way Everton hate Liverpool, I would not be able to say that. I mean, fucking hell, I'll walk around the house singing Spirit of the Blues. I love that song. It's dead catchy. It's dead catchy. When I hear that on Twitter, someone's posted like a funny clip and, like, dickheads dancing, and they put that like as the soundtrack, I can't get enough of all that stuff because it's hilarious. But I also really like the song. It's dead catchy, and I'll
Stop
walk
the recording, Chris. It's
I'll
gone too far.
I'll walk down the road just like humming that to myself, and people will probably look and think, oh, he must be a blue. Now, can you imagine an Everton fan singing You Never Walk Alone? It wouldn't happen. So
No.
I'm not
The blue
having it
sounds
that, like,
nice.
I hate Everton in the sense that, like, you'd think about, like, hate it. It's not that. It's purely, I'd love to see them go down. I think it'd be hilarious. And mainly for the fans. Some of the fans are sound, but, like, loads of them aren't. And the more that they suffer, it's like, yeah, it's funny. I want to see it.
Okay. I'm right there with you on the songs, though. Like, I do kind of enjoy Grand Old Team when they come out to that, and I'll definitely sing along to that, even the red shirt bit.
What the fuck's going on here?
Wasn't it you, Brownie, when we were talking about them on like one of the early pods, and you were talking about, and you said something about, I've got family members who are Blues, and we were expecting you to say, and they're all right, and you went, they're all fucking dickheads.
Oh,
as
they
well.
are, yeah, they're all pricks, yeah. To a man and a woman, all pricks.
Yeah, that was a classic. That, like, he just caught us all by surprise with that one.
Alright, gosh. Well, on that subject, Brownie, Joseph Svedsk, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, on the forum.
Yeah, no idea.
Says, which current Everton player would you sign under threat of slow and agonising death?
Oh my God.
I'll take the slow and agonising death.
Oh no, yeah, thinking about that. Hello, Mr. Brown. Would you like cancer or AIDS? Innit? Fucking hell.
I know who you'd sign, Dave. You'd sign that Onana so you can make that same fucking
Oh, yeah.
joke every
That
week.
fucking quality joke.
I've used that a couple of times since, I must
See?
admit. I'd be lying if I said
See?
otherwise. It's a good one. Do you know what?
He's
They're
not
all
bad, him,
shit.
actually. He's not like he's
No.
not awful compared
I'm
to
not
the
having
rest
them.
of
They're
them.
all shit.
But no, I don't want
The only one I've remotely thought that is half decent is probably Damari Gray,
Yeah,
Dan's boy.
he's hit and miss, but like
Yeah.
when he's on the pitch,
don't
I'm
think
like,
he's shit.
he'll do something. None of the others. I never think any of the others will do anything. But when he's on the pitch, I think
Yeah.
he might do something.
Probably go with him.
But I wouldn't.
And he's
sign
quite
him.
inoffensive as well, and he doesn't really look like
We've
an
actually
Everton
been linked
player.
at one of their players. You know that. Remember he was. I think he played in the derby last year. That Branthwaite, the centre half. He's on loan at PSV, and I've seen quite a few reports saying that, like, he's on our potential list of centre backs. So, I mean, I don't see how they would possibly sell to us. But yeah, it's interesting that we're even being linked.
If
to them.
FFP comes after them, they might have no choice.
Yeah, true. If we're the only team in and we're offering,
Yeah.
if the Premier League take over their transfer business and like decide, no, you can't turn that offer down, you need to take it, then yeah, maybe so.
Right.
But I don't even know if he's any good or not. But we've been linked to him, and he's on loan at PSV Eindhoven. Actually, you know what I'd do? I'd take Connor Cody, and then I'd just never let him play at all. I'd say no. You can just stay at home. Don't worry about it. Stay at home.
Yeah.
And just completely like end his career.
I would go with James Tarkowski on the basis that he's the centre half that we hold hostage when we allow Nat Phillips to leave. He could fill that like break glass in emergency centre half role that Nat currently occupies.
Last 2 minutes when the other team's throwing a big man up front and you need to go with an extra defender.
Yeah, something like that.
Plus the fact he's their main goal threat as well, because they can only score from fucking corners. He's either scoring himself or he's nodding them down for someone else to score. So you take him away.
I hate him, he can fuck off, don't like him. I'm just looking through the squad, I mean, it's hilarious. Andy Lonergan's there, wasn't he with us for a bit?
Yeah,
just get him back.
No, he's tainted now, fucking Judas.
Andy Lonergan, Judas.
Santa Vesterveld went there as well, didn't he?
Did he?
He totally ruined his like glorious Liverpool legacy.
He's a Liverpool legend, you know. He was in Anfield the other day. He's one of the legends, apparently.
Yeah, well, he went to Everton.
All right. Hey, that's like the perfect segue because we had a question somewhere. I'm just trying to look. Yeah, here you go. Josie Jones on the forum said, should there be a minimum requirement to play for Liverpool legends, Dave? And if so, what should it be?
Oh, it's a good question, and it's really tricky. The easy thing to say is, yeah, there should be. We only want legends playing. But what you've got to factor in is, like, the games are for charity, and it's whoever's prepared to turn up and play. Because it's all well and good as saying, like, oh yeah, you know, get like Michael Owen, get Torres, get Gerrard, get Carragher playing, all like Hippier, all like proper legends. But if they're not available, you've still got to play the game, and because like they can't play 90 minutes, you still need a squad of like 20 players. So you are going to have to go down like the pecking order a fair bit, and you end up with Salif Diao and Mark Gonzalez and Albert Riera. So I don't think there should be a minimum requirement. I just think that the top players should be given priority if they want to play. I mean, the game at the weekend, I never watch these games, but I watched probably I think I put it on after an hour. I watched the last half an hour of it because it was live on YouTube, which I didn't know, and I was like just browsing YouTube and I seen that and thought, I'll stick it on. And it was all right. I quite enjoyed it, to be fair. But like Mark Gonzalez scored, and I was talking to my dad afterwards, and my dad had no idea who he is. And I was trying to explain to him, I was like, don't you remember? Like, he played in the Champions League qualifier, he scored on his debut or something. Like, he was meant to be dead fast, but he wasn't. And my dad's like, no memory of him. He remembered the others. He remembered, like, Albert Riera and Cinema Pongol and, you know, Momo, Salif. He knew all them, but he had no recollection whatsoever of Mark Gonzalez. And yet he's been like the star of these Legends games. He scores like every time he plays. So
you've seen the size of Momo, by the way, these days.
Yeah, well, he can't run, and that was his thing. Like, you know, running was his thing, and he can't run anymore. So it's like, well,
and he can't see either, can he?
He can't run and he can't see. So
what's he got going for him?
He's basically like it's like having Salif Diao there twice. Because, you know, Salif can't run anymore, and he was always shit. You know what? That's harsh on Salif. That's harsh, because I actually quite liked him. I know he wasn't very good, but there was something likeable about Diao, because like, he was a trier. I'll give him that.
He wasn't Diouf.
Yeah, that was the main thing was he had a good attitude. He was a trier. And I always remember like when he was getting played at centre half and that, and he couldn't do it. He was shit, but like, he didn't moan, he just got on with it and tried his best. So I've got no problem with Salif Diao playing in these games.
All right, 5 times.
No, I'm just saying, no problem with it, with like the likes of Salif playing in these games, because if the big hitters aren't available or don't want to play or whatever, you've got to make up a squad, and if they're willing to play, then, you know, good for them.
Well, here's
Let
one
them
for
have
you.
the little moments back at Anfield and that.
To answer the question then, how about if you ever sign for Everton or United, you can't. You're ruled out. You're not allowed to play.
See, no, because
listen to what you said about Andy Lonergan, and then let's think about Michael Owen. Come on.
I was only joking about Andy Lonergan, but yeah, I can't ban Michael Owen from Legends games.
I would.
No
way.
Not doing that.
I think it's shameful the way he's been completely ostracised from everything, but that's another topic for another time.
The club not even wishing him happy birthday.
I know.
Well,
and they'll wish anyone happy birthday. Even fucking Suarez, they'll they'll wish him a happy birthday. And
What do you mean, even Suarez?
He brought more shame on the club than Michael Owen signing for Man United.
I'm just counting down the days until Suarez retires and he's back for one of these Legends games.
Oh, mate.
I'll probably go to that.
To fucking
Imagine Suarez and Owen up front.
Would you get his name on the back of your shirt? Come full circle there.
No, but to answer the question, I don't think that you can put a minimum requirement because you may end up cutting off your nose to spite your face. But I'll tell you what, though. I was thinking when I seen like who was in that squad for the Legends game, and I was like, where the fuck's Daniel Sturridge? Why doesn't Daniel Sturridge play in these games? Daniel Sturridge would be fucking amazing. Yeah, probably. But he'd be amazing in games like that. Instead, we've got Robbie Keane and his fucking beer belly waddling around up front, playing a half for Celtic, a half for us. And I was like, oh, where's fucking Sturridge and his magic? You know, he'd be great in those games. And Crouchy, and Peter Crouch.
Yeah.
Well, why is Peter Crouch not playing?
Yeah,
They just mustn't fancy it. They just mustn't want to do it.
Would you class Crouch as a Liverpool legend?
Fuck yeah.
As like a cult Liverpool legend?
Yeah.
Or because for me, it's a simple answer to this question. It's change the fucking name. Don't call them Liverpool legends. Just like Liverpool old boys or Liverpool all stars or something. Because the term Liverpool legend used to mean something.
Even all stars is stretching it though.
Yeah, I was thinking that. It denigrates the actual term.
The term legend was a thing, wasn't it? Like you would talk about whether somebody it was like a sort of Hall of Fame thing, basically. If you got bestowed the term Liverpool legend, it actually meant something from us, and it was a recognition of what you'd done. And about half of the squad, like Dudek, yes, Hippier, yes, Gerrard, yes, McAllister, yes, McManaman, yes, probably, Luis Garcia, yes, Dirk Kuyt, I would say yes, but all of the others wouldn't qualify under those terms. So just change the fucking name, just call it something different, and then I would. It's
not doing them any favours.
Yeah. No, I'd be able to watch the games then because I boycott them out of general principle at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is petty.
Do people take it that seriously though? That probably comes into it, doesn't it? Really. I mean, I'm not asked about it. I buzzed off Stevie scoring the other day, by the way.
Yeah, so did he. Did you see?
I know.
Lighting up the Celtic fans.
Yeah, it was boss.
Yeah, but when those games first started, they were actually mostly legends who were playing. And then, because they were very rare, weren't they? It was like, maybe once every 5 years you'd have one. Yeah. And, Kenny was playing in them. It was like proper, like, old people, like, who couldn't even play, but they'd come and do 10 minutes. But now, as, like, the games are more frequent, they take them a bit more seriously, and you're wanting younger legs in there, so you're looking for players who've fairly recently retired. So that's why you end up with, like, Ragnar Klavan, who I loved when he was here, by the way, so I'm glad to see him back. But, people like that. And then it's like the younger, fitter ones who are having like the most impact on the games, which is why Mark Gonzalez is doing pretty well in them. But yeah, it doesn't sit right when they're called Liverpool legends, and you've got Salif playing and Gonzalez and Riera. No, I do think like they need to rethink that, change the name.
Yeah. So we've got like 4 or 5 more questions, but we've been going quite a long time, so I'm tempted to sort of like save those for another episode that we've got coming up. So Pete, Sean, Mega Drive Man off the forum, we will get to those. But there's one more I wanted to ask you guys along the sort of the theme, the irreverent theme that we've been going on here. And Brownie, I'll start with you. What's your wildest celebration to a Liverpool goal?
Oh, fucking hell. It might be Chelsea semi-final, FA Cup, only because I was wildly drunk.
Oh, yeah.
Fueled up on alcohol.
Was that one over the line?
That was.
Yeah, because that one carried on for a good few hours after Chris, I'll tell you. I'll go with that one.
I was there, I just didn't see the aftermath.
Let me just interject there. We done a podcast on this, so listeners, go back and check one of the first ones we did, like start of last season, before we played Chelsea preview pod, and the story about like Brownie at Old Trafford's in it, and it's worth listening to if you didn't catch it first time round. So yeah, go back and look that one up.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Dave?
There's a few. Obviously, some of them are like related to the occasion. Like speaking of Luis Garcia against Chelsea, obviously the ghost goal. That was a mad one, but it was a bit of a weird one because we didn't really know if it was going to be given or if it was a penalty. But like once you realised the goal had been given, yeah, that was mad. I think Steve Staunton was on the row in front of me. I was hugging Steve Staunton when that went in. I was on the back row of the main stand. I definitely remember hugging Steve Staunton at a Chelsea game. It could have been the one the year after. I don't know. Was it the following year when we beat them on penalties again, or was it 2 years later?
A couple of years.
Yeah, it was 2 years later. It was one of those anyway. I was hugging Steve Staunton.
Nice.
So that was one.
I just remembered another one I want to come back to, Chris, just after Dave. Sorry, just because I've just remembered one. Go on,
okay,
Dave.
yeah, Mellor's winner against Arsenal. That was like mental, that one. Even it carried on outside the ground. Everyone was hugging each other outside the ground. We seen Steve Kelly, didn't we, afterwards?
We did.
Yeah. That was mad. That's because he was our boy. Like we knew him. So it was like the closest that we were ever going to get to like a family member scoring for Liverpool or something. Pretty much. Yeah, that was amazing. Surprisingly, one that you think would be right up there would be like Origi against Everton, the Pickford one. But I didn't go mad with that. I remember I was just fucking laughing my head off. I wasn't even like jumping around. I just looked at me dad and the pair of us were just fucking pissing ourselves laughing. So that was just a weird one. Considering 97th minute winning in a derby, you think, and you see Klopp's reaction to it. Well, I wasn't really like that. I just thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And then when I seen Klopp running across the pitch as well, that just really fucking had me doubled over. But yeah, speaking of Divock, I feel like I can't let this go without mentioning one that should have been the wildest celebration, and I was robbed of it. And that would be his goal in the Champions League final. Watching it in the Echo Arena, the goal goes in, everyone goes nuts. I'm just about to really get into going mad, and then here's Paul standing there with his arms stretched out, just shouting, and a big circle formed around him, and he was going, stop, I've lost me glasses. And instead of just ignoring him and carrying on celebrating the moment, I actually stopped and was helping him look for his fucking glasses. And it was everyone around, it affected everybody. I'm he just sucked the fucking joy out of that moment. There'll be people listening to this now. We were in the Echo Arena going, so that was the prick that ruined the fucking Origi goal for us. But yeah, so that was one that should have been one of the wildest celebrations, and it ended up me just on the floor, looking for Paul's glasses in amongst all fucking piss and lager and plastic cups on the floor. And then he finds his glasses and they're broke. So then he's got a cob on for the rest of the night, even though we've just won the European Cup. So yeah, that was a wild celebration that never was. Cheers, Paul.
Oh, nice one.
He needs to go on and explain himself.
Yeah, and he can explain why when we came outside afterwards and we're all buzzing because we've just won the European Cup, and he goes, I'm getting off, boys, my head's battered.
Those were his exact words as well.
It was. Yeah. See you later, Paul. What the fuck?
Bye.
Oh man,
he's never going to live
get
that
the
down.
right to reply.
No,
he'll get the right to reply.
He'll try to. He can't deny it because there was so many witnesses, but he'll try to downplay it and say it wasn't as bad as that, but it was.
Fair enough. It was pretty bad. It is amazing how many of those Divock goals would be shortlisted for that, though, right?
It is.
Obviously, the corner taken quickly, Origi one, the Everton one, the Champions League final one. That one again, I think I was trying to think of this in terms of goals that I didn't.
Wolves.
Yeah, I wasn't there at, but I watched on the telly, and that was one of them. Yeah. I went absolutely fucking berserk for that Wolves one because I thought it was a sign that it was it was on. I thought, at that point it was one of those moments where you just think, oh man, we're going to do this, and it wasn't to be, but in the moment it was. And another out of the what would you say, not a traditional pick would be out of left field would be Raul Morales' goal against Chelsea a couple of days after Torres left under Kenny. Do you remember that? I remember going, I was in I just moved to Florida at the time, and I was in my little apartment. I didn't really know anybody there. And I kind of let out this big roar when it went in and was sort of charging around. And I had neighbours knocking on the door and asking if I was okay and stuff and what was going on. I think they were on the verge of calling the cops. But that was one that always stands out to me of just being one that I went over the top for just because of how we were all feeling in that moment. It was such a fuck you to them. My friend Paulie, who listens to the show and has been a TLW member for years, he was at that game and he still says it was one of the most limbs celebrations he's ever been part of. But I think in terms of games I was at, I would probably say Salah's goal against United in the title winning season away, Luis Garcia's ghost goal against Chelsea, because that is the loudest I ever heard that stadium in the 30 years I've been going to it. It was unbelievable. It still sends like a shiver up my spine thinking of it. And another out left field one was Ellen Road 2000, third round of the FA Cup, when Barnby and Heskey gave us a late win at Leeds. I remember that just being like an insane one as well, where you ended up about, the best ones are always the ones where you end up 3 or 4 rows down from where you started, and that was definitely one of them. That was a good one. You guys got anything to add to that?
Yeah. So where you mentioned about ending up a few rows down, that brings me on to one from when I was very young, I think 7 or 8, Blackburn away in the cup, and my dad took me and we equalised right at the end. I don't know if you remember this one, Dave. It was the one where was it the ball boy threw the ball back on dead quick for Steve Nicol, and then we literally scored straight from it. It was in injury time.
Didn't Jimmy Hill slag him off?
He got loads of stick on Match of the Day. Yeah. I was behind the goal and I ended up right down at the bottom. And back then, obviously, no seats and everything. Like, everybody had to push me all the way back up to my dad. On people's shoulders, and they were just passing me back row by row because it went nuts when we scored. Then I ended up right at the front. Obviously, as a young kid, it's a bit scary, but also how boss is this? This is great. So I love that one. And the other one that popped in my head before, which it's an obvious one, but Stevie against West Ham in the cup, because that game was done. That game was done. We were finished. I don't know anyone who was watching that game who had any faith we were getting back into it. Everyone had cramp, and you just resigned yourself because it was a mad one, wasn't it? The way it went with the freak goal from Konchesky and everything about that day. Just
own goal from Carey.
Yeah, everything about that day just screamed shock, didn't it? And then Stevie just put his Superman cape on and did that. Yeah, I went wild for that goal.
Owen as well against Arsenal.
Owen at Cardiff, another one.
The winner. That was one of the best.
That's probably my biggest regret of games I wasn't at. I can live with the fact that I wasn't in Istanbul because I had such a good time with you guys watching it in the city, and it was amazing to be there. But that one still stings in terms of games that I wasn't able to be at, because I think I've been to every round and couldn't get a ticket for the final. But yeah, I would love to have been there for that. It
was miserable as fuck. The whole day, I remember I was trying to sell fanzines outside and sold about 5. It was horrendous. And it was boiling hot. I'm standing there just trying to sell fanzines. Oh, it was a nightmare. And then the game was just shit. We were awful. And when he got the first goal, everyone was standing up. But they've got TV screens underneath the stands. I don't know if they still have, but Millennium Stadium. I'd given up. I was just sat there watching it on the telly. I wasn't even watching the pitch. I was just, because people stood up in front of me and I was sat down, I was just watching the screen. And then we get 1 goal back, and all of a sudden it was Arsenal, but they battered us. And when that happens and then the team scores, you're like, oh shit. It changes everything. And then we just get that breakaway goal, and it's such an underrated goal. I mean, it was fucking perfect. The technique on his left side, just holding off the defender, perfect finish right in the corner. I think he's done a somersault, didn't he, after he scored that? And it's just, that was definitely one of the best. From when I was a kid, I go back to the Molby goal against United, the one that wasn't on telly. And everyone talked about it for years, and nobody had seen it except the people who were in the ground. Well, that was my first game on the Kop. I think I've told this story before in the pod. My first game on the Kop was on the very front. My dad thought I'd be better off at the front rather than in the middle and all that, because I'll have been about 11, maybe 10, 11, 11 I think I was. Maybe 12 actually. It was mid-80s, wasn't it? And that goal, I had a great view of it because I was behind the net. That's where it was. I was just by the post, and just watched him. It felt like he carried the ball 80 yards, and then when you actually see it, because the footage just come out now and you see it and you're like, oh yeah, it's a good goal, but it's not like what I remembered, and it's not the way it got built up over time by those of us who've seen it. And it's like he went past 10 players and then lashed it in from 35 yards, and then you watch it and like, yeah, that's not quite true, but it's still really good. But I just remember like the place was just fucking mental, and because I'd never been in the Kop before, and it was Man United and like such a great goal, I'd never experienced anything like that. So yeah, that one definitely stays with me. That was something special. Yeah, I think that's probably it. Can't really think of any more. None that stand out. When we finish, I'll be like, oh shit, what about that one and that one?
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, not so much one specific goal, but the Man City game when we just had that flurry of goals, and I think we scored like 3 in 10 minutes. Fabinho scored.
The one where Mo lobbed him.
Yeah, Mo lobbed him, and Sadio lashed one in with his left foot as well.
Yeah.
That period where we just completely blew them away, that was something else.
I've just remembered Sadio's first goal, Arsenal away.
Yeah.
I went wild for that one.
Yeah.
When a new signing scores a boss goal and you're proper pumped, I remember. Yeah,
it was an unreal finish there.
Yeah, it was boss. Jumped on Klappo's back and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right, there's loads. We could probably do an entire show on this, and maybe at some point.
Yeah, maybe we will.
We'll get some of the other boys involved, and we'll do.
Imagine the Blue Nose is trying to do a similar podcast. They'll be sat there like that.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, we'll end it there.
There was that Dan Gosling one. Oh no, I didn't see that, lads. The adverts came on. I missed that one.
It's probably all goals that they ended up like losing the game in, like Stuart McCall, that Connor Cody one that got disallowed.
That was the greatest moment of Connor Cody's career, apparently. That's what he said. Highlight of his career was a fucking disallowed goal against us.
It says it all.
He's only been there a couple of months, and it doesn't take long, does it?
No. Anyway, well, this has been fun. I think we've been running like quite long, so we should probably have a look at the City game now, right? At the weekends, bring us down a notch or two.
Considering this was supposed to be like the Man City game preview pod, and we're like 90 minutes in, and we haven't even mentioned it yet.
Nice. Let's just do like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
That'll be fine. Brownie away from home, 12:30 Saturday kickoff. After an international break. Traditionally speaking, it hasn't been the most sort of fruitful time to play a game for us, and we're going to Man City away where we don't have the best record anyway, so how many are we going to win by on Saturday morning?
I was looking at this before, so we haven't won since 2018, that Champions League game. We haven't won in the league since 2015, which was Klopp's first game there, I think, as well. Sometimes they spank us. They've beat us 4-0 and 5-0 in the last few years. They're going for the league. We're shit. What's not to love? I don't hold out much hope, to be honest. Although, when you actually take a bit of a closer look at the numbers, our record at their place is a damn sight better than theirs is at ours. Like more than half of the time that we go there, we come away with at least a point. And when you think about the context of this season, we'd all snap your hand off for a point now, wouldn't we? So I don't think it's totally lost that we could get a point, but I'd be lying if I said I had any confidence going there. The one good thing about it is Foden's injured and Haaland's doubtful. Feels like Foden always plays boss against us. Is that just me, or does he just always play boss against us? So I'm happy he's
boss,
out.
though.
Yeah,
He is a good player. Yeah,
Nice.
but he just seems to turn it on against us for some reason. But yeah, he's out, so that's good. I don't know.
I consider it a win if we don't have to look at one of their faces.
That's good.
Yeah.
Phil Foden. It's like the old
Foden,
Vic and Bob line,
Haaland,
isn't it? Phil Foden
Ederson.
with your face like a hard-boiled bollock.
Edison should have those little like pixelated graphics over his face. What they used to have when when like you couldn't
Japanese
show
porn.
You couldn't show any bollocks on the telly. Yeah. Well, he's so believe. Yeah.
Chris knows what I mean.
So believe. No, but he should. Like we shouldn't be subjected to his face. You can make the case for Haaland as well, to be fair, but definitely Edison. It's just painful to look at.
Speaking of Haaland and his orc-like features, I'm reminded of, thinking of this game, I'm reminded of the Gimli's quote from like the Two Towers or whatever it is in Lord of the Rings, and he goes, "Small chance of success, certainty of death. What are we waiting for?" That's how I feel going into this game, and I somehow have it within me to think that we might actually win it.
I wouldn't be surprised if we did. I think it's more likely that we won't, but I wouldn't rule it out because we've done better in like the bigger games this season. We've been much worse against the shit teams. So the only thing is, it's what you said before. It's like we're shit after an international break, but this is an even longer one because we had the week off before because of the cup. So it's an extended break. It's a 12:30 kickoff. I mean, the 12:30 kickoff. A lot of the problem with that is because we've normally played in midweek as well, and so that's not really an issue. But we're terrible after a break, so that's a big problem for us. If Haaland doesn't play, which I think we're all sure he will, but if by some chance he doesn't, I think that levels the playing field quite a bit. But no, I don't know. If I'm forced to make a prediction, I'll say we have a narrow defeat where we're feeling hard done by, probably because of some kind of referee decision that didn't go our way. But no, there's a chance that we'll win it. There's definitely a chance.
Okay. And that refereeing decision is going to be from your fabled conveyor belt of baldy mag referees.
Oh.
Unlikely.
Which one is it? You'll have to be more specific, because...
Well, I don't know. I don't know who's reffing the game. But Brownie...
it's usually Anthony Taylor, isn't it?
Let's have a look then. Fucking hell.
Whenever we've got a man...
That's what I thought you were getting at when you said that.
Yeah, but there's another half a dozen others though, isn't there?
Referee. Oh no, that's last year. Last year was Anthony Taylor. Michael Oliver, I think.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
Oh no, that was the Anfield game.
Oh,
come on, Chris.
I'm sorry. Like, Google's letting me down here. Let me see if I can look at news.
Need to get on that new chatbot.
I don't see either of you doing any of this research. So
I didn't think we needed to. I thought you were doing it.
All right. It doesn't say. Presumably they haven't been assigned yet, but we can rest assured that it probably will be one of the aforementioned. Brownie, would you go with sort of like an attacking team for this lineup for this game, or would you sort of look to do what we did at Anfield and sort of keep them at bay a little bit and then pick on moments and on the counter?
Yeah, I'd go with the second option because we kind of went head to head with them in the League Cup game, didn't we? After the World Cup, we just went and tried to play our normal game and said, "Come on, let's have a game of football, see who the best team is," and we lost, didn't we? So yeah, I'd be happy for us to be a bit more pragmatic because we know that we're fragile. We don't know what we're going to get out of us. The one good thing is that the bad thing about us dropping off is the fact that we've dropped off, and obviously we're trying to sneak fourth place rather than try and win the league. But the good thing about it is this season we do seem to, when we play against one of the better sides, we seem to raise our game a bit. I hate that, but that's a good thing coming into this weekend and coming into the week that comes up, because it gives you a little bit of faith that they're going to be motivated and they're going to turn up and give everything. So in terms of is Diaz back?
Back training. Probably too early for him to be starting, but...
Yeah, but you'd expect him on the bench.
I'd hope so, yeah.
That's a nice boost, isn't it? Because if he can get half an hour or something, that's good. I don't know, to be honest with you, Chris, I don't know what the situation is from the international games.
Sure.
Who's coming back fit? That's the main thing, isn't it? Who's going to be available? That'll dictate pretty much what the starting team is, I would have thought.
So I think that there's not been anything reported. Costas got a knock. He had to go off.
Did Darwin go?
Darwin didn't go, but it was a cut ankle.
Okay.
So that's going to have healed by now. And Gakpo missed the game with food poisoning, but played the second game, so he'll be fine.
Mo played, didn't he? I think I saw some headline that he scored and did well. So assuming everyone's fit, then the team probably picks itself, doesn't it? We don't have like a ton of options, I don't think.
Does it though, if you're saying about like playing a bit more cagey? Because we played 4-4-2, didn't we, at Anfield? So
yeah, haven't we played 4-2-3-1 recently though? What game was it where we definitely dropped to having a two?
we played
the Real Madrid game.
Real Madrid game, yeah. We went with two in midfield, and
maybe we'll do that. We'll see a repeat of that. It didn't work very well on the night.
I was going to say it worked really well, didn't it?
I know. Yeah, so fuck knows.
All right. Well, have you guys got anything else to add before we call it a night? I think we've gone about an hour and 40 minutes here, which would be high in the running for. I think John, Dave, and Jules did the Brentford podcast, and it was almost like 2 hours long for some insane reason.
How the hell did we get 2 hours out of that?
I don't know. It was. I think it was 80, at least 80 odd minutes that you went for. So At least this has been more fun than that, but it has been quite long. Anything more you guys want to add before we call it a night?
No, I can take a hint. You're wanting to wrap it up, so yeah, we'll just stop talking.
I'll sit here all night. I'll sit here all night and talk with you guys.
Simon Hooper is the referee for the weekend.
He's bald. I don't know if he's a mank. He's definitely one of the baldies.
It's a good job I saw that one because the headline above it said it was Clattenburg. So yeah, don't know where that's from.
Get him out of retirement. Let's see where Simon Hooper's
He's not
from
bald as
before
well
we
now,
wrap
is
it
he? I hope not.
Did you see that?
Where's he from? Swindon.
Well, we might get a pen.
Nice. Did you see that story about Clattenburg's replacement as like head of the Egyptian like referees association or something? He got banned because he looked at the video of the fans' footage of the goal, and he saw that there was like a handball in the build-up, and he overruled the goal based on the fact that the fan had the goal on his phone.
So he basically gets punished for making the right decision.
Yeah, definitely. It was like a primitive version of VAR, and he made the right decision, but he's been suspended and banned. But I'm not going to go down another...
Paul's a primitive version of VAR. Just killing the buzz of like goal celebrations. Paul was doing that before VAR was even a thing. He's going to be fucking fuming when he listens to this tomorrow.
You're going to have him on after City on Saturday, give him a right to reply.
Yeah, I will.
All right. Well, that's a good thematic way to round up what's been a fun podcast. And hopefully we can continue the good feelings going into the weekend. Big run of games ahead. We'll be back after every one of them as soon as we can get the podcast up. But until then, thanks to Dave and Brownie, and we'll catch you soon.
Well, the best word I can say, but will describe this was boom. Ooh, what was this? It was really good.